Hi, I'm Ernie.
And I'm Ben.
And this is Budget Nerds.
What was all in your mind?
You are not alone.
No, you are not. Welcome back to the show, the 50th show, friends. Can you believe that? 50 episodes of Budget Nerds.
Oh, man. We got to do something real special for the 100th. I guess we have a couple years to worry about that. But
well,
that's exciting.
To celebrate the 50th, because the 100th, I mean, that's a long ways away. But for the 50th, hey, it's your birthday today, Ben. So happy birthday.
Thanks, guys. As of our recording, which is in the past for you guys, it is my birthday, my 34th. Not the most special birthday ever, kind of a random one, but thank you, Ernie.
I'm
fun.
Pulling you into the studio to record a rush episode of Budget Nerds because we've fallen a little bit behind. But after this, any plans? Or do you kind of keep birthdays low key?
Yeah, pretty low key. My wife and I went out to breakfast this morning. So that was a nice little date we had during the day. And afterwards, no particular plans tonight, but I do have a friend who gave me a present, and I'm looking forward to opening a couple other presents. So, yeah, should be fun.
Very nice. Well, we won't keep you long here, okay? This is probably going to be a shorter episode, primarily because I'm going to be doing most of the talking. So
you're not going to hear me yabber on so much.
Well, I was kind of taking the route of I just usually don't say a whole bunch. I kind of keep my thoughts concise. And so what I'm going to be doing, I thought, is sharing, because I recently made a whole bunch of budget changes. And I wanted to share those with y'all folks. I think I made a comment about it in the Budget Nerds channel at work. I just said, budget update alert, and kind of listed out everything. And right away, you commented, we got to make an episode out of this. And so,
well, it was like right around the 1st of September. And I was like, oh, Ernie got in the bubble bath and did his thing. And he made a bunch of changes to the budget. So I was like, we have to have an episode, because I don't know anything. I don't know what you've done, Ernie. I gotta hear about all this. What have you changed? It's a big deal.
Yeah, and the reason I want to talk about this is because I feel like they are significant changes, meaning there was a lot of thought behind them. It wasn't just, I'm bored with the budget, and so let's start tinkering with it kind of thing, which I often do. But I just been feeling a lot of financial stress over the summer, with the rising costs and just other lifestyle changes that we had made over the past 12 months. I feel like it all kind of came to a head. And so there's just
all kind of caught up to you.
Yeah, there was a lot of overspending every single month, like more than usual. There were categories that I was always stressing about whether or not they had enough money. And so I'm like, this just isn't working, right? The budget is experiencing stress, and that stress is then flowing to me. I felt like, okay,
right,
that shouldn't be the case. Like when financial stress hits, the budget should be able to put me in a place of, being calm, right? Knowing that, okay, even though with this stress, things are going to be all right. And so I just need to take a look at some things, rearrange it. And so the first thing I did was I changed the way I organize my categories. So previously I was doing the themes. So I had an auto group, I had a house group, and I realized that made it very, very difficult to roll with the punches. Because anytime there's overspending, I'm looking for categories that have a little bit of flexibility. So I don't have flexibility with bills, right? Those are necessities. I have to pay for those, so I don't want to take that money. I have a little bit of wiggle room in true expenses. And then there's all those other categories where those are the primary ones that I roll with. But all those different types of categories are mixed in with each category group I had created.
Okay.
And so it didn't give me a clear view of what my actual priorities are.
Right.
So I changed it, and now it's really simple. I have my first group, bills, and that's all of my monthly and non-monthly bills. And so I just know, don't even look at those categories because
Right.
I
That is
do
not
not
available to you.
Yeah, I do not take money, even if the bill is due, 9 months down the road. Like I put that monthly amount in and I don't touch it.
So that includes some true expenses then. It's just like the predictable true expenses that
Yes.
are coming a certain time, a certain amount.
Yep. But they're bills, they're my top priority, not going to touch that money. And so that took a good chunk of my categories. Then the next group I have are frequent. So that's things like groceries, consumable, my personal spending category, Christy's personal spending category.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to group all those because those are the ones that I'm spending from, that we're spending from every single week. And then the third group are my true expenses, and that's what they're called.
Okay.
So, and then just listed all those out. And
those are all the unpredictable ones, I guess.
Yes, the unpredictable ones like auto maintenance, home maintenance.
Okay.
And then the final group are goals. So kind of like the big wish farm things that we're saving for right now. And so really then when it comes time to roll with the punches, it's me just starting at the bottom and working my way up. And instantly when I made that change, I felt so much better about the budget.
Okay, so it sounds like almost like the default that we have right now. If you started a new budget right now, that's kind of what it looks like. Is that what you were thinking of going towards?
Very, very similar. Yeah, and I like the way it prioritized my categories, right? The most important ones are at the top, least important ones are at the bottom.
Okay. What I'm most interested in is you have the true expense category, but you separated it out so you have your regular predictable true non-monthly bills with your bills category.
Yeah.
Which I think traditionally, like just by the defaults, and the way I have it, the bills category group is only monthly bills. But you have it, anything that's a bill. That's a regular expense, even if it's non-monthly, is in there. I really like that because you're right. Like you can't touch that. Like I'm never going to take money from my car insurance category that I spend that I pay every 6 months, right?
Yep.
Because I know I'm going to have to refill it. So like I don't want to take money from a category that I know I'm going to have to end up refilling because it's just kind of like, robbing Peter to pay Paul kind of thing,
Yep.
But something that's a little more flexible, like auto maintenance as opposed to auto insurance, you might not necessarily have to replenish it because you might still have enough to cover things. So that's really interesting. I really like that change. That's cool.
Then the next change I made is I went through every single target, looked at what that amount was, and adjusted if needed. And probably
now, you didn't like blow it up first. You actually looked at the old one and considered changing it.
Yeah. Looking at the target in combination with what is already in the category.
Oh,
right. So I'm like, okay, a good example would be like furniture. We kind of bought all the furniture once we moved into the house. And so, but we continued to add pretty aggressively to that category. So I looked at what the balance is and I'm like, oh, more than enough, right? So let's dial this monthly target amount back just a little bit.
Okay. Yeah. So you're leaving the stuff in the furniture category. What's there?
Yeah.
Did you move any money out of it or are you just leaving it in the available amount?
Yeah, I did. Not out of that particular category, but I did move some money out of other categories. And that was the other thing I did. And so, just to kind of finish off this thought on targets, there were some categories where I lowered the amount that I'm contributing every month. And then there were some categories where I raised it up because, those were primarily the categories that were stressing me out because I was constantly, running on fumes there. So things like school, boys, groceries, I bumped up a little bit. And so I think it was just really good to look at what my plan had been and how life has changed since I originally set up that plan, and then just readjusted based on the way life is going right now. And again, doing those changes just felt so much better about the budget.
And I love that, Ernie. I mean, it sounds like your budget looks more like your life now, right? And that's what you want. I mean, how long you been in the new house? It's been over
2 years.
Year,
2
right?
years now, yeah.
2 years. So that just goes to show you a big change like that. It kind of takes a long time to shake out, Like you were still in furniture mode for a long time, and now you don't really need to be, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think that's good when you make a big change. We often talk about like if you move to a new city, especially or something like that, it might be a good time for a fresh start because a lot of your old data might not really be accurate anymore. Like the electric bill is probably not the same, or even groceries, or whatever it is.
Water bill, a whole bunch of them are different now.
But it's not just when you make that change. It's kind of like you need to look at it 2 years later and be like, well, first of all, you actually have more accurate data once you make that change, once you make the move, right?
Yeah.
But also, your priorities have changed. Like you don't need furniture as much as you used to because you got all the furniture you need, right?
Yep.
But your boys are getting older and more expensive, right? So you can focus on them a little more. So that's really cool. I love that.
Another little change I made with targets is there were a few categories where I changed the target type. So, and this was primarily, I think it was all in my true expenses category group, where I'd been using the monthly savings builder. So just contributing a fixed amount every single month and really kind of just doing it without even thinking, right? The target is set up for X amount of dollars. Click the category, hit the underfunded button, and I just move on. But I realized, there's some categories here where I'm really comfortable with where those balances are at or where they're getting close to. And so I changed the target type to savings balance. Basically, here's how much I want. And once I get that amount, I'm going to cap it, right? I don't need more than this for auto maintenance or home maintenance. And so that's just going to kind of get me out of this mode of doing the same thing every single month. Does that make sense?
Right. I'm totally resonate with that. So did you put a date on those or do you just have it without a date?
Without a date.
So it doesn't give you... Okay, so it's not going to turn yellow. It's not going to like prompt you to put in a certain amount. It's just you can make decisions based on how much you want in there overall.
Yes.
And then you can kind of make decisions in the moment. I kind of love that. It kind of freaks me out a little bit because, me, I'm like, we talked about before, I'm so obsessed with like making the budget the same every single month.
So am I, yes.
But I think that may have hamstrung me a little bit into kind of like what you're saying, kind of just being maybe a little too robotic about it and doing the same thing every month. Instead, you're actually looking at those balances and saying, okay, how much more do I feel like I need in home maintenance or any of those true expenses? And making a decision in the moment instead of just kind of mindlessly throwing $100 every month to that. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that is so well said too. And the other piece there is it was causing unnecessary stress. Okay, so I'm rolling with the punches. I can't contribute to towards home maintenance, right? I can't hit that arbitrary goal that I set up a number of years ago. And now I'm stressing because I'm not hitting that target. But if I had just looked at the balance of the category, right?
No reason to stress.
Right, I have more than enough, right? So
yeah,
I really liked that small change with the budget.
Man, Ernie, this is opening up like a whole can of worms for me because we've put such an emphasis in our teaching on set targets for every category.
Right, that budget template.
And not just have like a savings balance, but set it so, like put a date on it so you have like an actual monthly amount. And I think that's good. Like I think that's opened up so much for people, especially new people, to really, because you really do need to, especially when you're started at the beginning, like you really do need to have like a monthly amount so you know what your needs are.
Yes.
And also you don't have to do that hard work every single time of deciding how much goes in every single category. So there's a lot of benefits to it, but maybe when you get into it a little bit, or maybe even at the beginning, it might be worth it to not put a monthly target on every category. And it sounds like sacrilegious me saying that because it's like we've been like teaching that for so long. But I think there is a lot of benefit to that because I feel like I've gotten a little robotic with my budget. Like, oh well, I put $100 in auto maintenance every month, and it's because that's just what I do, and that's what the target says. And all I do is push the underfunded button, and it just does it. Yeah. Right. But I don't really review it. I just push the button and it funds it, which is like super cool. And I guess I do review it because I do look at those targets from time to time. Like my wife just got a raise because she got a new job, and it was like a small raise. So we're reconsidering the targets now. So I do consider the targets, but I think there might be a lot of benefit in every month actually changing that and not having that stress of like I have to hit this $100 in auto maintenance target every month. When really that stress is arbitrary, like you pointed out, because it's an arbitrary rule that you set up for yourself. So yeah, I really like that.
Absolutely. And then the other change I made, well, actually there's two more, but I just reallocated some funds. So again, I'm looking at what's available in every category and just making some changes. All right, these categories, they've been pretty low. We're spending from them on a very regular basis. Let's take money from somewhere else. And the primary category I took from was our savings category, which we've been kind of earmarking for future home renovations. You know, we have some interior things that we're thinking about doing, maybe some exterior things. And I just was protecting that money for really no concrete plans, with no concrete plans in the future, right? We don't, we're not doing anything, but we just have this hope of someday. So let's protect this money. But boy, there were things in the here and now that money needs to be used for.
That's good. Yeah, because I know we've talked about that fund over the past year or so, and you feel like, you know, I remember you mentioning like you feel like, oh, it's easy to take money from that for Rule 3 expenses, you know, Rule 3 stuff, and you feel like you weren't really feeling the trade-offs because you kind of had this big chunk of money that you weren't really sure what it was. Like it wasn't really following Rule 1, was it?
Yeah, it wasn't. Because we didn't know exactly what that money was for. And so I just took a good chunk of that and redistributed the funds across some true expenses, and instantly just felt more peace. Okay. All right. I like the way, you know, the jobs have fallen here. Let's go with it.
I love that. Yeah, that's great. I mean, and you can always change your mind, you know, if you do get the idea of like, hey, I am gonna do this particular home renovation and you need some funds, you could take it from some of those categories, and that's okay, as long as it doesn't freak you out. You know, it doesn't, as long as you still have that peace when you do it.
Absolutely. Right? And I think what this whole budget change has taught me is I just need to be more hands-on, right? I you know, just always reviewing, or I should say reviewing a lot more where we currently stand with our category balances, you know, what those targets are, and just really what is going on in our actual life, like circumstances and what are our hopes and dreams, to use a really, you know, kind of cheesy saying.
Right. Well, Ernie, you're challenging me a lot here, because I think you're right. I think I've gotten a little robotic with my budget, and really reassessing. And also, I think I've been causing myself a little bit of undue stress with my budget template the way it is right now, because you know, sometimes the template will change on its own because of changes in the budget. Like I just paid a big home insurance bill because I only pay that once a year, right? And the amount was higher than I thought. So for the next year, I just set it up to be, you know, a higher amount, because it's probably going to go up even more than it went up this past year, right? And as a result, that my monthly target amount changed, and now I feel like, oh, I don't have my $300 margin. Like it's just off, and it's just like, you know, it's not exactly the same. So I need to take from somewhere else, and I just feel like it gets messed up, not because my income is lower than it should be, or because, but just because of, you know, things change, and it can sometimes get the math can sometimes get off a little bit, and I feel like I've done something wrong, but I haven't done anything wrong. I'm just changing my budget as my life changes. Maybe kind of what you're doing is you are almost adding a little more margin into your budget, where you actually have a bigger chunk of money that you can actually make decisions about on a month-to-month basis. And I feel like if I did more of that, I wouldn't have to be so rigid where I'm like freaking out if my template is off by like $10. You know what I mean? The way when I say it out loud, it just sounds so ridiculous. You know what I mean?
I know. And
I think there's things we can do with our budget where we actually cause more stress for ourselves than we need to.
now,
You know what I mean?
I haven't really fleshed out this idea, but something that I've been thinking about, and I know others are thinking about it at YNAB as well, but I'm not going to be able to articulate it very well. Maybe you could. Is it seems like this monthly structure gets in the way of just fluid, stress-free budgeting. Right? Because we're like, okay, I have to put a certain amount towards this expense or this priority, and I have to do it every single month. Like I have to be consistent. I want to do $600 for a year, so that's going to be $50 every single month. And if I don't hit that arbitrary goal, that target, well, then my budget is in shambles. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we throw out crazy ideas all the time, and I think Jesse said recently, he's like, what if we just didn't have a monthly structure at all in the budget? And I'm just like, what does that mean? like it breaks my brain.
I know.
But I don't know. Like, what would that look like? It's interesting, and I think you're right. Yeah, because there's no real reason that it has to be a monthly budget. I think we make it monthly because most bills are monthly, right?
Right.
But most people don't get paid monthly. And I think YNAB, more than most budgeting methods, it does kind of break the monthly basis a little bit because you budget every time you get paid, right? You assign that money every time you get paid. So you're not necessarily only assigning money at the beginning of the month. You could do it that way, though. A lot of people do. A lot of people will, park the money that they're getting paid in a category and then fund an entire month all at once, right? So you could do it that way, but you don't necessarily have to. So why does the budget have to be actually structured as a month? Because if you're not actually budgeting monthly, a lot of people aren't, right?
Yeah.
So I don't know what the thing is. I feel like it's like jumping off the deep end, like into the ocean. Like what if it has no monthly structure? Like what is it? you know what I mean?
know.
But I think it's just my paradigm is so focused on the month. I can't really figure out what else it would be.
Yeah,
but there's a lot there.
What if I hit a month and I'm like, you know what? All my true expenses, those available balances are right where they need to be. I'm comfortable with that, and so I don't need to fund it at any of those categories this month at all, and let's use that money for something else. That kind of freaks me out a little bit, but I think I'm slowly getting there, and with these changes that I've made.
On the other hand, just to argue the other side, over the years, I feel like I've dialed in my true expenses, especially those unpredictable true expenses, so much to where the monthly amount is really the amount that I need. Like, okay, it's not very often I feel like, oh, I have enough in auto maintenance, because once I have, a good amount of money in there, there's a car repair and it goes back down. Right. And so I feel like I've actually gotten it pretty close to where I always have enough, but I never really have too much either. So I think there is a lot of benefit in like figuring out what that monthly amount is, but I don't know if it's like a necessary way to do it. You could say, oh, I'm not going to put anything in it this month, but next month I'm going to put $200 in. So I'm putting $100 a month in there, right? Overall, right? So I think what we're really saying the same thing. Like if you, the way that you're doing your true expenses right now and the way that I'm doing it, where I'm like really rigid on them, it's the same amount every month right now. And you are maybe a little more fluid, a little more flexible with that. We probably are going to end up averaging the same amount, right?
Yep.
But for you don't have all this guilt of like not hitting this arbitrary number every single month. Instead, sometimes you go a little higher, sometimes you go a little lower, depending on your priorities that month, and that's fine. So something there.
Yeah, I just had to remind myself it's not about having this perfect automated budget, right? The goal is less stress, and so I need to do whatever makes sure that happens. All right.
That's the bottom line.
Bottom line.
Do whatever gives you less stress.
Yep.
That's what it's all about.
And then the final change I made is I just stopped paying extra on my mortgage. And I say that with no shame because this was an arbitrary rule.
That's right. Well, you broke the rule before, and now you're just following the rules that you set for yourself.
Right. I'm not going to pay extra on my mortgage. Hey, I am going to pay extra on my mortgage. No, I'm not going to do that anymore. So, it was a small amount. It was like $35 a month. but it's just something I'd been experimenting with over the past year. And I'm like, nope, I need that money to, even though it's a small amount, I'd feel better if I used that for something else. And so I just stopped doing that. And
yeah, well, I appreciate that. If it's not a priority, just make it not a priority. Like, just don't do it.
Right.
You know, and that's fine. So nothing wrong with that.
So it feels kind of weird. Like, I am a budget nerd and I'm not paying extra on my debt.
And that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's funny though, because like, you know, before, like earlier in your budget journey, like that was everything for you.
Man, everything.
So I kind of wonder if maybe you made that a little bit of a part of your identity. So when you finished paying off your debt and all you had left was the mortgage, maybe you're feeling a little unmoored a little bit.
Right. And to be honest, paying extra on debt has always been really fun for me. It like fires me up. And so I was trying to recreate that a little bit, but well,
I think what's happening, just for a therapy session, I think you haven't had a super strong goal for a little while. So you were kind of like searching for one, right? And so you were like, let's try to throw in a little extra money at the mortgage and see if that, I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it makes a lot of sense. You're like, let's try throwing a little bit of money at the mortgage and see if that fires me up. And it sounds like it hasn't. And so now you're kind of acknowledging that it hasn't and you want to do something else. So,
it hasn't. Yeah. And you're right. I think I do need a goal, and I tried to make, paying the mortgage off a little bit sooner that goal, but it just wasn't firing me up. And actually it turned out being one of my biggest financial mistakes over the past few years. So, cause I took a chunk of money last fall and put it extra, and all year I've been thinking, man, I wish I had that cash back.
You wish you had it in your hand.
But
yeah, I hear you.
You live and you learn, right?
Well, that's an interesting thing, is like once you actually, the beauty of budgeting is you're not making an actual final decision. You are kind of trying out decisions, until you actually go and pay the money to the mortgage or whatever it is, you aren't committed, right? So just having, cash is options, right? Having cash around it's like freedom. It's options, it's choices. Right. And so, but until you actually commit that money, you have the choice. So I can totally understand that feeling where you're like, I just kind of wish I had that money back. I mean, you could always get a HELOC or something, and get it back out of your, it's in theory that money's there, right? It's just in an asset.
Right.
Not worth it.
Thank you. Trying to make things simpler, less stress.
Let's not add more debt, more complications. Yeah.
So those are my changes. And like I said, I really thought through those. Wasn't just something that I did on a whim. And I'm really, really happy I made those changes, because I really do feel less stress about the financial situation right now. And I just feel like I'm more in tune with my money, because I'm being less robotic. And now when it comes time to do that budgeting session in October, really excited about that. Right. So
yeah, because you have more choices.
A lot more choices.
Instead of just following the template exactly, you can kind of make choices. Well, you've challenged me today, Ernie. I mean, maybe in like a year I'll try it. Well, I'm a little miffed, honestly, because I remember, back months and months ago when you said that you were doing this themed category group structure, and I was like, oh, that's such a good idea. I should try that. And I never did, because I can't make changes to my budget, because I'm just apparently incapable of doing that. And now you've moved on and you said that it wasn't working for you. So, I guess it could still work for me, but now I'm kind of like, well, what am I going to say I'm going to do now that Ernie's changed? I guess I'm going to say I'm going to try this. I saw what was the target type you used? The monthly saving balance. The
savings balance.
I can't even remember our target types names anymore. We've changed them too much. The savings balance. Yeah. I was like, maybe I should try the savings balance targets more and try that out. That's not, honestly, Ernie, I'm thinking about it.
All right.
Because, yeah, it might solve a few problems I've had where I've been a little obsessed with hitting a particular number on my template, and maybe in order to almost excuse myself from having to actually make decisions about the money when I'm assigning. So interesting. A lot there, Ernie. Really good insight. Appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And it was good to be able to talk at length on Budget Nerds. Maybe I'll do more of that in the future.
Yeah, I shut up for a little bit, although I probably still talk too much. So, but
No, it was fantastic. Well, why don't we get into some YNAB wins? I know we put a call out for wins, and you folks definitely responded. So excited to share a couple more with you.
All right, let's do it.
What was all in your mind?
All right. Well, our first YNAB win comes from Jenna Lee, who wrote in on our When Your Budget Gets Boring episode. And they said, YNAB win. This episode inspired me to update some of my category targets. Perfect. I will be unemployed for 2 months in December and wanted to prioritize saving up more for that. Being a full-time student, working full-time, plus some side hustles, and owning a home and some pets can be a lot for one person to handle. I will say that is a lot, generally. YNAB helps me feel more in control of my spending and where my money goes. Love it. Awesome. Yeah, so it's a lot like you Ernie.
Yeah, we're on the same wavelength there, generally.
And change things up. That's really cool. Love it.
My YNAB win comes from the same episode and from Emily Moses. My YNAB win is all about communication. My partner and I have very different money management styles and money habits, and YNAB was the first budget that allowed us to get on the same page. Setting up and running a YNAB budget together allowed us to finally see growth for our goals and get serious about naming and honoring our priorities. That is fantastic to hear, Emily. Congratulations on that, because budgeting with another person is really, really difficult because, you have your own priorities, their priorities, and then you've got those shared priorities. And so communication is definitely the key. And it sounds like Emily and her partner figured it out.
And I love, that's a good turn of phrase there, Emily. Naming and honoring our priorities. That's what budgeting is all about right there. Give it a name, call it out, and then honor it. I love that.
So if you have a YNAB win and you're watching the YouTube video, just comment. Let us know what that win is, big or small. We'd love to share it on the show. And if you're listening to the podcast, you can email us at budgetnerds@youneedabudget.com. And we'd love to share that one on the show as well.
All right. Thanks everybody for listening, and congratulate Ernie on his big change. I'm excited to see how it goes over the coming months.
All right. Thanks again, folks. We'll see you in a couple weeks. Happy budgeting.
Happy budgeting. Bye.